This is ABTV, Animal Bites Television.
I have been unbelievably obsessed with blue-tongued skinks over the last couple years. I gotta be honest with you, there probably hasn't been an animal I've been more excited about working with since the early days of ball pythons. Now don't get me wrong, I get excited about working with every type of animal, but blue-tongued skinks have just captured my heart. But with that said, I don't really know much about it, and this year is the first year that I'm breeding these guys. I've bought about 200 skinks over the last couple years, and I've never produced a skink, so I'm going to spend this show kind of telling you guys what I've learned and what's starting to work for me. But trust me, I've got a long way to go. My name is Brian Barczyk. I'm no zoologist, just a guy with a passion for animals, and that passion often takes me on animal adventures around the world. This week, I'll be talking about blue-tongued skink breeding. You're watching Snake Bites. So I'm not going to lie to you guys. With me being this obsessed with blue-tongued skinks, you're probably going to hear a lot about blue-tongued skinks over the next couple years. But don't worry, I'm not going to change the name of the show to SnakeBytesTV. It's still going to be a snake show, but these guys have just really been amazing to me. But one of the things when you start getting into them is, how do you sex them, okay? They're not like snakes where you can avert the hemipenes or probe them. The hardest thing for me as a newcomer in the blue-tongued skink world is figuring out if an animal is a male or female. I want to kind of share with how I figured out how most of them are, but I'm still not sure about a couple. If you look at cages, there has some question marks, like female question mark, and I'm going to talk about how I'm going to sort that out through behavior. But first off, I want to talk about an animal like this. This is what is a female Turner white northern blue-tongued skink. Okay, and you might ask, how do I know it's a female? Well, I've been noticing behavior that I'm going to talk in a little bit about it, but really what you want to kind of look at is, and I'm going to grab a male real quick. Let's see, I'll grab another Turner white male. Give me a second here. Oh, right here. Okay, so here's another Turner white male. And I'll give you some comparisons really quick. Okay, so this is a male and a female right here. And you can see the male has a little bit bigger head, a little bit like kind of chunkier head. The female is just a little bit more dainty, I want to say. And the other thing that happens is that the base of the tail right here, females will be a little bit more wide, where males will be more, a little bit more narrow. But it is so hard, I'm telling you, just looking at these guys, I probably look at them 10 times and go, I'm not sure. But I'll put this female back really quick. And there's another thing that I've been noticing with males that actually my buddy Colin down at the camera guy for Criticam and Taliqua Freaks gave me this. We actually got on FaceTime. He was in Australia and he kind of showed me what he was talking about with males, and it's kind of worked pretty well, but again, not 100%. But if you take them and you kind of look at the base of the tail right here, right where their anal vent is, and you can kind of even twist the tail back and forth, you'll see right there, there's a bulge on this side and there's a bulge on that side, and that's basically like a hemipene pocket. Females typically won't have any of that bulge, although I have seen really small bulges in females, but they don't really look like that hemipene pocket. So again, even, you know, with a guy like me that's just getting involved in this, I don't have that trained expert eye, so I'm really struggling with it. But a lot of males, you'll see that hemipene pocket, you'll see that their tail is a little bit more narrow and kind of is a little bit longer, a little bit more bulbous head. That's kind of the general idea of the visual cues. But again, I gotta tell you, I've got males that look like females and I have some females that look like males, but they've actually bred now, so I know that they are. So I wanna talk about behavior. And basically what happens is, let's say you're gonna take this female Turner white and this male Turner white, and I'm gonna plop them in the cage. This is kind of one of the ways you can tell what is male or female is the way that they behave, okay? So I'm going to put them in here, and this particular pair hasn't seemed to be ready to breed yet, so I'm just going to see what happens here. But ultimately, I use a breeding cage, okay? And most blue-tongued skink breeders will use something like this, which is just blank. Some people use carpet on the bottom so they can grip a little better. Some people use paper. I'm just using paper, but you want something that's pretty clean. You can keep a really good eye on them. And the idea behind this, and there's some controversy about it, but it's the fact that you really, if they're thrashing around, you don't want them to knock something over, potentially hurt it, because trust me, these guys are pretty violent when they breed. So a nice, clean, blank cage seems to be the best kind of environment so that you can really keep an eye on them and kind of monitor what they're doing, and you don't have to worry if there's a fight and you need to break it up, that there's obstacles in your way. And again, these guys are only in here for about 15 or 20 minutes. And that's the other thing about skink breeding, which is very different than snake breeding, is the fact that with the snake, you throw the snake in, and you just leave it, leave it till tomorrow, leave it till tonight, whatever it is. With these guys, you literally watch them when you breed. You really, in particular with northerns, easterns, you don't really want to leave them together because these guys, it could be bad. But again, here I can kind of see a couple things going on. Take a look at this really quick right in here. See how, she's definitely not ready. She's peed a little bit in the corner. She's trying to get away, but she's not aggressive about it, right? So if she was a male, chances are they would be fighting, and they're going to gape their mouths at each other. They're going to charge. They're going to bite each other. They could definitely hurt each other. She doesn't appear to be afraid or wanting to fight him whatsoever. She just wants to get away. And again, I'll notice that a female that's not quite ready to breed will oftentimes pee a little bit, like she wants to get away, she's kind of scared, and that tells me that she's just not quite ready. The male, in this case, isn't ready either. He's not really doing anything either. But what I'll notice is that when you do put a male in with a female, and the male is ready, is that he'll start to, his tongue will come out a little bit more, he'll come up and he'll kind of first like just push his nose into the female, and as a matter of fact, sometimes when you can tell a female is ready to breed is when you'll actually just scrape the right by her hind leg a little bit and her tail will wag. And that's what happens. The male goes up, sniffs her, kind of rubs her a little bit, she'll wag her tail and sometimes even lift her tail, and then unfortunately it gets a little bit more violent after that. The male grabs her and aggressively breeds her. But that's the way I'm really telling when I can't visually see what the cues are. I'm telling the behavior of the animals. Again, if a male and female together, you can tell if that other animal is a female because she's not wanting to fight typically. And if it's two males, they're going to fight one another. So that's the way you can kind of tell. Now, two females, it can go both ways. A lot of times they will get aggressive towards one another. Sometimes they'll just ignore each other. So again, I'm still learning. These are just things that I've learned in the last, say, 3 weeks of breeding. So they're certainly big experts beyond me. I'm nobody. We're learning together right now, right? And I'm hoping that it's successful. So that's the biggest issue with blue-tongued skinks, is figuring out what the sex is. Now, there is some light on the horizon here, guys, and it's the fact that we've been working for quite a while, and I think we're getting close to having a DNA test or a sequence test, which basically would just mean that you could send a shed skin or a toenail clipping or even a mouth swab, and I'll be able to tell you if it's a male or female. So hopefully in the next 3 months or so, by the time everyone's starting to have baby skinks, we'll be able to tell you what your skink is as soon as it's born, which is going to save a lot of work, because trust me, I've spent a lot of hours stressing out not knowing what's what. Because blue-tongued skinks are new to me, I'm really trying to figure them out on every level I possibly can. And a female blue-tongued skink can be unreceptive to breeding 1 week and then the next week receptive. And I'm sure that that's linked to follicle growth. Now, I have never ultrasounded a blue-tongued skink in my life, and I'm going to try for the first time right now. I don't even know if I can find follicles in here, but if I can, maybe I can start to identify what size those follicles are when they start to become receptive. That's going to help me down the road when I'm deciding to pair animals up. So let's just give it a shot. This may work, it may not work. I'm not sure. So let's see what we got in here. Oh, they're a little bit more difficult than snakes. There's no doubt about that. Oh, I can see some stuff in here. I can see the gallbladder. I can almost see where the track should be. I mean, this is the hardest thing, right? Is just trying to figure out where the follicles are. I've never ultrasounded blue tongue before, so where do you have to put the probe in order to find the follicles? Whoa, wait a second. Whoa, take a look at this. See those follicles right there? 1, 2, 3, right there. Take a look at that. I can actually measure them. These are at 13 millimeters right there. So this girl's at 13 millimeters. You see this, Lori? So that tells me something. So now I can at least find them, and what I've noticed is that the best way to catch them is to go directly on top. Now what I have to figure out is that when is it starting? Can I start to see 4 or 5 millimeter follicles, and will that be the starting point, and where's the ovulation? But this is the start. Again, it's a long, long road to figure it out, but I absolutely know now I can find follicles in these guys. Now I just have to figure out what size the follicles are for triggers, and that's going to make me a much more proficient breeder of blue-tongued skinks. Let's back up for 1 minute. We don't just jump into the breeding. You have to have the right conditions for the breeding first, and of course the right size and age of the animal. And what's interesting is that you really want to have females that are at least, maybe 13 to 15 inches long, and probably about 400 or 500 grams. I've heard of people breeding females as low as 300 grams before, but I think it's important for them to be robust and actually work. And certainly an animal could probably produce at 8 months of age and 300 grams. But if you have a 1.5 year old female, she's probably going to give you a lot better production, larger production. But again, I'm no expert at this. I'm just figuring this out. But most of my females are definitely 18 months old and pretty big animals on that matter. But also not just about the size, but about the way you get them ready. So most skinks need, certainly northerns and easterns, need some sort of a cool down to cycle them, right? So they want to get into that kind of click, like, okay, it's breeding season. And what we do is that normally we're keeping stuff at about 82, 84 degrees with a hot spot about 90 to 95 degrees. During a cool down, we'll actually cool them for about 2 months down to, you know, upper 60s, lower 70s. And what you'll find is that the animals do just like this animal right here. It just hides. You know, we use this hay as a hiding spot, you know, and some people have hide boxes, some people don't, whatever it is. But what we'll find is that when it's cool, they'll go in the hay and they'll just basically go dormant. I mean, we never see them out. I open cages, you never see them. So they don't even eat or anything during that period of time. And then when we start to warm them up, slowly, gradually, after a couple months, you'll start to see, in particular, the males will start to emerge from that hay, like their dormant period is over, and you'll see them kind of cruising around, starting to look for food and stuff like that. That's when we offer food again, and we often see them starting to eat. Now, the females usually come out a week or two after that. You'll start to see the females. Now, the males will often drop a what they call a sperm plug, which is just that plug of sperm that's been in them for a while. That means they're ready to breed, and then they shed. Now, the females, again, are a little bit behind it. When the females shed, now you're ready to breed. By then, you have a few meals into them. They're pretty much roaming around and they're ready to go. And that doesn't mean that during even the warm-up that they're not going to spend some time hiding, because, hey, they're an animal that hides in the wild, and so that's not uncommon. But they're still very active and ready to go. But when the males are ready, they'll be completely shed, and then the females shed out, and then you put them together. And I tell you, that's at least how it's worked for us. And I've been doing a lot of research, and it seems like it is. So I'm not saying I'm an expert, like I keep saying. I'm just saying what I've learned about this over the last couple years, but really my hands-on now for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Man, I have a lot to learn, and thankfully there are great guys out there like Ray Gerge and Jeff Green and Austin, and the list goes on and on. I mean, these guys are really amazing. Ron down in Miami. I mean, these guys are amazing blue tongue guys, and they've been so nice to tutor me on their techniques, and I can't thank them enough. They're really the pioneers in this world, and I hope only one day that I can know 10% of what these guys do. But the truth is that once you get to this part, you have an animal size, you got the size, it's got the age, it's ready to go. You've got the cool down, they're ready to breed. Now comes the part that really, really needs a lot of patience to get through. So again, there's a lot of patience here, because you don't just throw these animals together and leave them alone. You've got to kind of keep an eye on them, make sure that even though it's going to be a rough ride, it's that they're not going to hurt each other too much, and just hope that nothing gets injured. So this is a female sunrise here, and I'm going to put her in this breeding cage, and then I'm going to take this male. Now, both of these animals have been receptive to breeding. He's bred this year, and she's also been receptive to breeding. So I'm going to put them together and hope for the best and see what happens. Let's pull her. See, he's immediately keying in on her. And I'm just putting, see how he's just, his tongue, he's immediately like, what's going on here, right? And so, again, I'm going to take a look and see. It sometimes can take 10, 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes it's only 2 or 3 minutes, but sometimes you just have to sit around and wait, right? And you can see he's kind of looking, he's interested in her, he's sniffing, but he's not quite ready to breed yet. But he's definitely interested, and you can see she's just kind of sitting there still, and see how he kind of puts his head on top of her. He's, you know, pushing her a little bit. He's definitely, this is absolutely an interested male here, but he's not quite ready. Oh, there he goes. See, he grabs her immediately. See how she's lifted her tail now, and she's actually lifted her tail, wagging her tail. That means she's receptive. So you can see, unfortunately, lizard breeding sometimes is pretty brutal. But this is very common. He's going to grab her, he's going to kind of submit her to where she wants to be, and then when he's finally ready, he's going to mount her, and hopefully he's going to breed her. But this is absolutely perfectly normal. But see how she's not fighting back? That means that she's pretty much ready to breed, at least what I've seen so far. And this is pretty typical for a male. I mean, he just wants to have his way, and he's going to do it. But again, she's acting completely submissive, and this is what it is. So once he's kind of figured the whole thing out, he's going to hopefully mount her. Now, this sometimes can go on for, like I said, 10 or 15 minutes. Sometimes he gets on her quick. Like, this is exactly where he needs to be to breed her, right there. He just needs to get his body over and actually do it. I don't know why he's just playing around right now, but the truth is that sometimes this can go on for 10 or 15 minutes, or sometimes it's right away. But this is an absolutely perfect example of how they breed, because she's really not fighting him, and he's just biting her, but he's not hurting her right now. I'm not really sure why he's not just mounting her right away, but I have a feeling if we can just stay patient, that he will absolutely mount her at some point here. So let's just see what's going to happen here. There he goes. Now he's getting close. Now he's getting close. It's close now. See that? See, there he goes. There he goes. He's got her tail up. His hemipenes are coming out. Try to focus on that hemipene area a little bit. Look, it's getting close now. He's almost got her. Any second now. There it goes. That's what you want to see. See his hemipenes coming out? Look at that. His hemipenes are inserted right into her cloaca, and that's the breeding right there. That's what we want to see. Look at that. That is perfect. And again, this process here is only going to take a very short while. Once he's completely inserted, it's probably going to be less than a minute or two, and he's going to release her, and the breeding is 100% done. And he's just going to hold her and submit her here through the whole time. You can see she's using those back legs to kind of push him away, but he's got complete control of her, and there's nothing she can do at this point. So this is exactly what he wants. And that's it. That's the end. You can see he's done. He lets her go and literally just climbs away. How awesome is that, huh? I mean, I tell you, for the last 2 years I've been buying and getting these skinks, and this is what I've been waiting for right here. Oh, this poor little girl definitely got a little bit beat up. You can see she's got a couple little pretty sore spots on her, but she's going to be completely fine. Now, the whole point here is that you want to try to breed these guys probably anywhere from 1 to 5 times. Some breeders, once they get one good copulation in where they see a good hemipene insertion like that, they're done. They won't breed them ever again. Other people I know will breed them 3, 4, sometimes even 5 times, just to ensure that they've got a good breeding in there. But hey, we're on the right track, and although it looks painful and looks kind of brutal, this is how they do it, and it's awesome. So I'm just so excited to have these sunrise to sunrise. Oh, they're going to be good. I'm going to put this little girl away. She's probably pretty wore out for sure. So that's basically the entire process. And when breeding skinks, you have to just basically continue on that process with each pairing that you're going to do. So again, it's a time-consuming thing because you have to sit here and watch them and make sure that, there's nothing major going on. Take a look at that gorgeous animal here. This is actually a caramel northern blue-tongue skink. It's one of my favorite morphs. I just love that really hypo look. And I'm breeding a couple really pretty hypos together. So let's get the male that's been really consistent with breeding. And look at this guy here. Whoa, you gotta be careful because sometimes males will bite you during breeding season, but take a look at that one, how silvery it is. So let's put these together, see if we have some luck. I tell you, this is just the beginning of the journey in figuring out the best way to breed these blue-tongue skinks and to just figure out what the triggers are and to make sure that I do it the most efficiently. But I'm having such an amazing time, and just look at those things breeding. I mean, that just fires you up thinking like, wow. And if any luck, in about 3 months or so, I'm going to have a bunch of little babies. Oh my God, I couldn't imagine opening up a cage and seeing a bunch of little baby blue-tongued skinks. It is so exciting that for this last couple years I've been working towards this moment, and let's just hope it's successful. And as always, guys, I'm Facebooking and tweeting my way through it, so make sure to follow me over at SnakeBytesTV and on Instagram at SnakeBytes.tv. Until next week, you've been watching Snake Bites.
Hi, I'm Peter Birch, an Aussie bloke who loves wildlife. My respect for nature started when I was a young boy in rural New South Wales. Since then, it's exploded into an obsession. New episodes every Thursday, only on AnimalBytesTV.